Hello future people, welcome to Getting Tabled. I'm Jason the Bruce, and today, all your base belong to us. Well, there's an old reference for you. So, quite a few months ago now, I came across Elriks Hobbies and their bases that they were making for Conquest. And at the time, I pretty much said, you know what, I'm making an order, which I did. It's taken quite some time to get here, but I just want to clarify that none of that has anything to do with Elriks Hobbies. The reason it took so long to get here is about 3 weeks after the order was made, shipping between the United States and Australia was closed down. And the only company that was working around that decided that they were going to charge 3 times more than was reasonable. So I, along with a number of others, kind of said, you know what, hold off. I think we're okay to wait. That's fine. And then eventually things kind of smoothed up and we've managed to get everything organised. So, I have quite a big chunk of bases here. We're not going to go through the entire box because there's repeats of certain items, but we're going to go through each thing individually and have a look at the quality of the casts. Alright, so here we are. We have some infantry bases, some cavalry bases, or at least that's what I'm calling them, and we have a monster base. I think I may actually check out the monster base first. Now, before I look at this, a couple of things that you want to be looking for with resin when you're dealing with a new company. One of the things is bubbles and holes in the casts, which for companies you haven't dealt with, if you don't know what their quality is like, that's the sort of thing you want to be watching for. And obviously the other thing is the usual flashings and so forth. Again, like, flashing is not actually a big deal. It's actually kind of normal for resin, but it's worth keeping an eye on. Now, things like that at the bottom of your base is completely normal. A little bit of a rough where you can feel that it's kind of set. And again, like, this is completely normal. This is just the two parts of the resin coming together. It's the same on this side. The other thing that you will notice sometimes is different shades in the resin. Like, you could have, coming from the same company, 2 different products and they look starkly different. That is never something to be concerned about. It is fairly standard. I only mention that because I know a lot of people seem to see that sometimes and think that something's gone wrong. All it means is that there's been slightly more of one thing than the other and the mix hasn't been 50-50. It's very, very rare that it would actually cause you any issues. I see no evidence of any holes. There's nice, really nice crisp detail in this. Like, that's all, it's all sculpted really nicely. The dirt and rubble around the broken areas is really nice. This is what they call their Celtic Rubble. This is really, really nice. And as you saw in the bottom earlier, there's no holes or anything underneath this either. Now, if you were concerned, like, there is a slight edging around this, which is actually something you would expect. That's, as the resin sets, it tends to shrink a little bit. So if you were concerned about that, which I'm not, but you could take to that with a little bit of sandpaper just to flatten it out, just to make sure that it's not going to rock, which this isn't. I did that myself. Because when I say it's not even a millimetre. Like, you could probably take most of that off with just your nail. I will just ignore that, honestly, because there's no real problem with it. Again, with this one, really nice crisp detail. There's no evidence of bubbles or air that was left inside. That's really nice and smooth. And given the size of these holes, like this is the sort of place where you might find bubbles. But there's no evidence of this at all. It's really good. And so that would go in there at probably about that angle. This is where my apex predator will be. Infantry bases next. Now again, these are all the same. Alright. Really nice, really crisp. Little bit of a hole there. It's really, really tiny. There's a little tiny hole there in the side. And to be fair, if you're ever going to find bubbles, it's going to be in areas like that where it's not been able to escape. But in all honesty, that to me it just adds. That just adds to the aspect of it. In fact, I'd almost break it open further. Nothing that I can see on this one. Couple of small holes. This is another place where you'll find them where it just hasn't been popped on the surface. None of this is like worrying, and you're not even ever going to see that, so I wouldn't worry about that at all, unless that's in a space where it's going to cause actual massive damage. I would not be concerned. Honestly, the quality and the casting on these is absolutely magnificent. Now, if you are the sort of person that really doesn't like seeing these holes, you can easily fill that in with green stuff. As you can see by the look on my face, like, I'm not concerned about this at all. The only reason I've mentioned it is because people that don't work with resin need to be aware of it. In bases, it's a little bit easier and more forgiving. If it was a miniature, you would obviously be more concerned because it probably means that you're missing important details, or you're going to have holes somewhere where it just really doesn't look good. In bases, it's not as huge a problem unless it's in a really bad spot where it's going to cause potential damage. But the quality on the casting of these is absolutely magnificent. The actual base rim, this one is kind of very gravelly with a little bit of the rubble around. Fairly smooth to the touch. There is a slight edging around there, but it's nothing that's going to cause big issues. And then again, all of your bases go in, and these things fit really well. Like, there's barely any movement in that at all, which is very impressive. You can be a bit of a stickler for making sure that things line up properly and stuff if you want. Obviously, it's going to depend on how you arrange your figures. Very quickly looking at the other ones. Obviously, we've seen the detail of them now. And so there we go, we would have our full unit. Only thing I would say is I know that there are some people that have been magnetising these so that the figures stand in. These actually have a nice weight to them. I don't think you'll really need to do that. It's obviously going to come down to you whether you think that's important or not. But at least at this stage, honestly, I think I might just leave mine as they are. I really don't feel a need for it. Loving the look of those. And lastly, now this one actually does have the website on it. Bit of a description on the back. So, I love the fact that he has actually written the US of A. I don't know why. There's just something about that that makes me smirk a little bit. This is important, especially with what I was just saying earlier. So if you're going to be sanding things to flatten them out, drilling things to put magnets in, or cutting everything, you do need to do this, because inhaling resin is not good. It is really bad for your lungs. This isn't just a, oh, well, you might want to be careful because it might be... No, this is bad. Keep this out of your lungs. It's very important. And yeah, obviously, yeah. So he's handcrafted all of these originally, and then as in casting them off the mold that he's created from that. Which is what you'll find most companies like this have done. I'm just going to take the front one. Nice and smooth. Again, like, there's nothing to be concerned about there. Not really much of a lip. There might be a little bit of one, but there's not really much of one. The detail on these is really, really nice. I was tossing up a little bit of a bubble there. I was tossing up which ones to go for. I almost went for the slate bases. I decided to go with these in the end, largely because, in all honesty, I can probably create slate bases myself without too much of an issue. The only real issue is that slate's kind of hard to get in Australia at the moment. Unless you want to pay way too much for the pre-crushed stuff. But that's something that I can do myself really easily, so why would I be paying for bases? As opposed to, look, without any green stuff skills, this is never something I'm doing myself. That's interesting. There's an injection point in there. Weird. I think that this hole has been created using an actual plastic base, which is interesting. This isn't a criticism, but isn't it the same for the other ones? No. So that dimple is because when casting this, they've inserted a base in here to ensure that that hole was the right size. It's actually quite clever. I'd never even thought of doing that. The lip on this is a little bit more pronounced than the inside of it. Like, it's still not an issue. Like, it's not going to rock or anything. But really, really nice detail. Again, fits in there with barely any movement, and obviously, like, you really can't complain about that. It works really well. And all three bases are different, which is good. Because if you have stuff that's the same all the time, it's going to become obvious pretty quickly. But in saying that, when you're dealing with mass battle, with big, large armies, I mean, this is not going to, like, repeats on this is not going to be the end of the world. Looks really nice. Honestly, like, pre-sculpted and everything. Look, this is not something that's for everyone. These are a premium product. And some people really enjoy making their own bases. I do and I don't. I bought these because I saw them and I really loved them. And nobody else was doing pre-sculpted bases for Conquest at the time. I will put a link in the description if this is something that you're interested in. There is multiple styles that he has. It's not an affiliate code or anything. It's just so that you can find them if you're interested. Honestly, I had really good customer service. He looked after me really well. So These were purchased with my own money, as almost always. If you're interested in getting into Conquest or expanding your existing force, either use the QR code on screen or the link in the description to open the Parabellum website, and when you're asked if you have a discount voucher, enter Getting Tabled without spaces, just like you see on your screen, to receive 10% off your order. In doing so, not only will you save money, but you also help support our channel without any cost to you. Thank you very much to anyone who chooses to do that. It's greatly appreciated. You're helping us improve our content and bring more content to you. Thank you very much for checking out this video. If you're enjoying the content of this channel, please like and subscribe. If you're in a position to do so, please check out patreon.com/gettingtabled. You receive early access to at least 80% of all videos that we put out, and you get access to the video edition of all of our podcasts the day that they're uploaded. If you'd like to check us out on social media, facebook.com/gettingtabled is the most active. We also have a Discord server. You can email our team at gettingtabled@gmail.com. If you're on either Twitter or Instagram, you can find us at gettingtabled. And until next time, play more games.